I never wanted the empire. But the night my father died, the crown was forced on my head, soaked in blood and secrets. The others called it destiny. I called it a curse. Now, sitting inside a marble hall built by men who murdered to keep it, I realized the truth. I was never chosen to rule. I was chosen to suffer. When your enemies are your family and your friends are for sale, you learn quickly that loyalty is just another currency. But tonight, I'm done being the pawn, because the empire my father built on lies. I'm about to burn it down from the inside. The smell of salt and lilies hit me the moment I stepped into the hall. The Hale mansion hadn't changed, still too polished, too cold. I could almost hear my father's voice echoing through the marble, commanding, judging. Now it was just silence. Silas Ward stood by the entrance in his black suit, the same one he'd probably worn to every funeral in his life. "You shouldn't have come alone, Damien," he muttered, his voice rough as gravel. "I didn't come to stay," I replied. My tie felt like a noose, just to pay my respects. He glanced toward the coffin at the center of the room. "They'll want you to stay." "You know that." I did. "That's why I almost didn't come." Elias was already there, shaking hands, playing the part. My half-brother always knew how to charm a crowd. Tall, blonde, polished. He smiled like a prince. I smiled like a man who wanted to disappear. When he saw me, his expression shifted for a split second before he pulled me into a hug. "Brother," he said warmly, "it's been too long." "Not long enough," I said quietly, but he didn't hear. Or maybe he pretended not to. The mourners whispered around us. Old men in dark suits, women wearing diamonds that could buy small islands. The power brokers of the Hale Syndicate, my father's empire. "Now, apparently mine, ladies and gentlemen," Elias announced, stepping forward. "Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone for standing by our family during this loss. Our father was—" I tuned him out. My eyes were fixed on the coffin. Mahogany, brass handles. Too fancy for a man who once said, "Respect isn't bought, it's bled for." I walked closer. My footsteps echoed, soft but sharp. Ivy Maddox appeared beside me, her perfume cutting through the air like frost. Her voice was low, precise. "You came after all." "I had no choice," I said. "There's always a choice, Mr. Hale." She tilted her head, her dark hair falling like a blade over one shoulder. "Your father thought so, until someone took it from him." My gaze snapped to hers. "What are you saying?" Her eyes flicked to the coffin. "He didn't die of age or stress. He was poisoned." My breath caught. "You're certain?" "Certain enough that I'm still alive and he's not." She leaned closer, whispering, "Watch your brother. And watch the glass you drink from." Then she slipped away before I could respond. I stared at the coffin. My reflection shimmered on the polished surface, a stranger wearing my father's face. "Poisoned." Elias's voice broke the silence. "Damien, father wanted you to say a few words. Did he?" I walked up to the podium, feeling 100 eyes on me. My father's legacy sat like lead in my chest. I looked down at the coffin, then back at them. My father was complicated, ruthless even, but he built something from nothing. A man like that doesn't just die quietly in his sleep. A few heads turned sharply. Ivy's lips curved into the faintest smirk. Elias's jaw tightened. "I won't pretend we were close," I continued. "But I know this. He'd want me to protect what's his. Even if it kills me." Silence. Then polite applause. The kind people give when they don't know what else to do. I stepped down. My pulse was hammering. Elias approached, still smiling for the guests. "Nice speech," he said. "A bit dramatic, but that's you. Always the storm in a glass of water." "You knew," I said under my breath. He blinked. "Knew what?" "That he didn't die naturally." For a moment, something flickered behind his perfect smile. A twitch. A spark of fear or guilt. Then it was gone. "You've been gone too long," he said lightly. "You're seeing ghosts." He walked away, leaving me standing there with suspicion burning through my veins. Silas appeared beside me again. "He's got your father's ring already," he said quietly. Didn't waste a minute. I looked across the room, Elias shaking hands, laughing, the golden sun taking the throne before the ashes were even cold. I needed air. I stepped outside, the wind from the cliffs sharp and cold. The sea stretched endlessly below, the same waves that had swallowed my childhood. When I reached into my pocket for my phone, my fingers brushed something else, a folded piece of paper. I hadn't put it there. I unfolded it slowly. Elegant handwriting. My father's seal in red wax, cracked. The message read, "You were never supposed to inherit. Now they'll come for you too." My throat went dry. My father had known. Someone had planned this. Not just his death, but mine. I looked back toward the hall, toward Elias laughing with the men who once called my father boss. Ivy watching from the corner, unreadable. Silas waiting by the door, hand resting near his jacket pocket where I knew he still kept his gun. Then I saw it, just beneath the edge of the coffin lid, something white. I hesitated, then reached forward. My fingers brushed paper, the corner of an envelope tucked under his suit sleeve. The seal bore my own initials. I froze. Someone wanted me to find it, and in that instant I knew. The funeral wasn't the end of my father's story. It was the beginning of mine. Lucien Carter arrived like a man who owned the world and knew it. His silver cufflinks gleamed brighter than his smile as he poured himself a drink in my father's study. My study now, apparently. "I'll get to the point," he said smoothly. "Your father's accounts are complicated. Offshore, encrypted, very old money." I folded my arms. "I'm not interested in his blood money." "You are the bloodline," Lucien replied, swirling the glass. "Which is why the network is locked until you sign the bloodline contract." "Bloodline contract?" I repeated. "It's the Heir Syndicate's foundation. Only the heir can access the primary vaults. Without your signature, everything freezes in 24 hours. He set a sleek black folder on the desk between us. The Heir seal glared up at me, my name underneath. Before I could respond, the door creaked. Ivy Maddox leaned against the frame, arms crossed. Her tone was ice. "Don't sign anything." Lucien's smile tightened. "Ms. Maddox, I don't recall inviting you into financial matters. I don't recall asking permission." She shot back. I sighed. "Someone want to tell me why everyone's suddenly interested in my signature?" Ivy stepped closer, her eyes locked on mine. "Your father didn't trust Carter. That contract isn't about access, it's control. Once you sign, every asset, every contact, every operation goes through him." Lucien's smirk didn't waver. "Your father trusted me more than anyone in this room." "That's not a high bar," I muttered. "Damien," he said, voice softening. "You're surrounded by vultures. The board will turn on you the second they think you're weak. The contract is your shield." I looked between them, the banker who wanted my trust and the advisor who never gave hers. "And what if I don't sign?" Lucien's tone darkened. "Then the Heir name dies with your father." He left before I could reply, leaving the folder like a loaded weapon on my desk. Ivy exhaled sharply. "He's not lying about the accounts. But if you sign that, you hand him the empire." I rubbed my temples. "You're telling me to trust no one." "I'm telling you to survive," she said, and walked out. That night, the house felt heavier, quieter. Every floorboard groaned like it remembered secrets. I couldn't shake Ivy's warning or Lucien's smirk. I needed answers. My father's office still smelled faintly of his cigars. The shelves were half empty, ledgers missing. And then I heard it, the faint hiss of paper burning. "Elias," I said, stepping inside. He froze, caught over the fireplace with a half-burned ledger in hand. "Damien," he said calmly, "you shouldn't sneak around at night. You shouldn't torch our father's records." He smiled, unbothered. "Some things are better erased." I walked closer, eyes on the flame licking the edge of the book. "Like what, evidence? Or guilt?" "Paranoia doesn't suit you." He dropped the ledger fully into the fire. "You always assumed I wanted what's yours." "You do," I said flatly. Elias's smirk faded. "You left this place years ago, remember? I stayed. I earned my place." I noticed his right hand trembling slightly, the faint outline of something metallic under his jacket. "A gun. I found something earlier," I said casually, sitting at Father's desk. "You remember the flash drives he used?" Elias's eyes flicked to the drawer. That was all the confirmation I needed. I pulled the drawer open, a hidden compartment beneath. Inside, a small silver drive marked with the Heir crest. "Don't," Elias said quickly. I plugged it into the laptop before he could move. The screen flickered to life, showing a row of old recordings labeled with dates. The most recent one opened automatically. My father's voice. "If Elias ever inherits..." "The bloodline ends in fire." Elias's face drained of color. "That's not what it sounds like." "It sounds exactly like what it is." I cut in. He knew what you were. Damien, listen to me. The metallic click was deafening. I turned. His gun was raised. You don't understand, he said, his voice shaking. He was going to destroy everything. He wanted you to be the puppet, not me. Put it down, I warned. I'm not the villain here. He shouted, stepping closer. Before I could respond, a flash of movement. Ivy bursting through the side door, gun drawn. Drop it, Elias. He hesitated. That's all I needed. I dove behind the desk, grabbed the flash drive, and bolted through the back hallway as gunfire cracked through the room. Damien! Ivy shouted. Move! We ran through the corridor, doors slamming behind us. My pulse hammered in my ears. The moment we reached the garage, I turned to her. You knew, didn't you? About him. She holstered her weapon, breathing hard. I suspected, but I didn't know he'd pull a gun on you. Trust is a funny thing around here, I said bitterly. She looked at me for a long moment. Then don't trust me either. She left before I could ask what that meant. Hours later, I sat alone in my father's study, the flash drive still warm in my hand. The files were still open on the laptop, static humming through the speakers. One final folder sat at the bottom, untitled. I clicked it. My father's voice came through again, weary but deliberate. If you're hearing this, you've taken the seat. You have 7 days before the board replaces you permanently. 7 days. I stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. I had inherited an empire built on blood, and the clock had just started ticking. The docks were ghosts of another life, rusted cranes, hollow warehouses, and salt biting through the night air. My father used to say the ocean kept secrets better than men. He wasn't wrong. I ducked into warehouse 12, the one with the broken skylight and the smell of old diesel. Footsteps echoed behind me. Easy, a rough voice said. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be floating. I turned. The man stepped from the shadows, gray jacket, scar under his left eye. Rowan Locke. I remembered the name from my father's ledgers. Smuggler, informant, survivor. You're late, I said. He smirked. Traffic, I didn't return it. You said you had information about my father. Rowan leaned against a crate, lighting a cigarette. You think your brother did it? I know he wanted to. Wanting and doing are two different things. He took a drag, smoke curling in the dim light. Your old man wasn't killed by Elias. My jaw tightened. Then who? He looked at me carefully, like testing if I could handle the answer. Ivy Maddox. I stared at him. That's a lie, is it? He flicked his cigarette into the dark water. She used to meet your father down here. Last night they argued about the bloodline contract. He was going to cut her out. Next morning, he's dead. I stepped closer, anger clawing at my chest. Why tell me this now? Because I owed him, Rowan said quietly. And because she's not done yet. I didn't trust him. But his eyes, tired, steady, told me he wasn't lying. I found Ivy hours later in the mansion's garden, her face pale under the moonlight. She didn't look surprised when I approached. Damien, she said softly, you shouldn't be here. Then why did you do it? Her lips parted slightly. What are you talking about? Don't, I snapped. Rowan told me everything. For a second, silence. Then she laughed, small and bitter. So Rowan's alive. That's all you have to say? She turned to face me. I did poison him. The words hit harder than any bullet. You, listen, she cut in, voice sharp. It wasn't my choice. He gave me the order. Who? I demanded. She hesitated. Someone above your father. Someone you don't want to meet. I stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. You expect me to believe you did it under orders? I expect you to believe I regret it, she said. Your father was already dying. I just sped it up, my hands clenched. You think that makes it better? No, she whispered. It makes me damned. She reached into her coat, pulling out a folded piece of paper. This will explain everything. The rest was drowned out by a sharp crack. A gunshot split the night. Get down! I shouted. We hit the ground as glass shattered. Snipers, at least 2, maybe more. I dragged Ivy behind the stone fountain, bullets slicing through the air. Who sent them? I yelled. She winced, blood spreading across her sleeve. Not Elias. Someone else, another shot. Rowan appeared from the shadows, firing back. Move! He shouted. They've got us pinned. We sprinted toward the greenhouse, ducking between pillars. Rowan covered us until another bullet hit, straight through his shoulder. He fell hard. Rowan. I grabbed his arm. He coughed, blood on his lips. "Get her out, now!" I half carried Ivy through the back path, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. She was fading fast. "Stay with me," I said. She looked up weakly. "It was never about the throne." Her hand trembled as she pressed the note into mine. "It's about what's beneath it." Her eyes fluttered shut. I froze, staring at the blood on my hands, at the note crumpled between my fingers. Bullets stopped. Silence settled, heavy, wrong. I looked back. Rowan was gone. So were the snipers. Only the echo of violence remained. By the time I reached the mansion again, dawn was crawling across the horizon. I went straight to the basement, the place my father always kept locked. The door was wide open. Inside, the vault, once filled with gold, ledgers, and secrets, was empty. The shelves stripped bare, and on the floor, a single detail that froze me, Elias's signet ring, lying in the dust. He was gone. I stared into the hollow vault, Ivy's blood still drying on my skin, her words pounding in my head. It was never about the throne. Then what the hell was it about? The Hale mansion smelled of smoke and ghosts. Every room whispered of betrayal. I stood in my father's office, or what was left of it, staring at the shattered glass and the black scorch marks across the desk. The empire was collapsing, and I could feel it rotting from the inside. I heard footsteps behind me. Ivy, pale and limping, leaned against the doorway. "They're moving in," she said softly. "The Doyle and Farron families. They've already taken the shipping routes." "Let them," I muttered. "They're fighting over ashes." "You still have the name, Damien?" she said. "The Hale Syndicate doesn't die easily." "It already has," I replied. "You killed its heart the night you poisoned my father." Her eyes flickered. "You think this was just about him? You have no idea how deep this goes." "Then tell me," I said, "before there's nothing left to save." She hesitated, then pulled out a phone. "Someone wants to meet you. She says she knew your father, intimately." Miranda Vale's private yacht was moored just beyond the Brighton cliffs, sleek, black, and guarded like a fortress. When I stepped aboard, she was already waiting, sitting beneath a crimson umbrella with a glass of bourbon in her hand. "Mr. Hale," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "you look just like him." "I'm not my father," I said, sitting across from her. She tilted her head. "That's what they all say. What do you want?" I asked. "What's mine?" she said, pouring another drink. "Your father stole it. My fortune, my freedom, and my future." I frowned. "You're saying he robbed you?" She laughed in a low, bitter sound. "He took everything. Your empire was built on my blood money, and your dear Ivy helped him clean it." I turned to Ivy, who stood silent behind me. "Is that true?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Miranda smiled. "Ah, so the good strategist finally runs out of words." I stood. "Why tell me this now?" "Because your brother already made me an offer," she said. "He promised me control of the Hale network, in exchange for your head." My pulse quickened. "Elias? Oh yes, charming boy, but foolish. He doesn't realize that I always collect my debts." In blood, I glared at her. "Then why am I still breathing?" She sipped her bourbon. "Because I wanted to see what kind of man you are. If you're anything like your father, you'll try to burn me. If not, maybe we can talk business." "I'm done with deals," I said. "All of them." Her smile vanished. "Then you're already dead. We left the yacht at midnight." The city below glowed like a dying ember. I drove back to the estate with Ivy, silence thick between us. Finally, she spoke. "Damien, she's right about your father. He stole her offshore accounts decades ago. I covered the transfer. I thought it was business, not betrayal. I kept my eyes on the road. And you still chose to work for him." "I was young, stupid, loyal." "Loyalty kills more people than bullets," I said quietly. She turned toward me. "Then why are you still loyal to his name?" I didn't answer. When we reached the mansion, something was wrong. The gates were open. The guards were gone. "Stay here," I said. I stepped inside. The air reeked of gasoline. A faint ticking echoed from the hall. Metallic, rhythmic, wrong. "Elias?" I called out. From above, a voice laughed. Cold and familiar. "You made it home, brother." He stood on the balcony, dressed in black, eyes gleaming with triumph. "What have you done?" I shouted. He raised a detonator. "What our father never could, and I've ended the curse. You're insane." "Maybe," he said. "But I won't die in your shadow. Elias, listen to me. I stepped forward, desperate. Miranda will never side with you. She'll destroy you, he grinned. Then we burned together. He pressed the trigger. The world exploded. The walls shattered in fire. Heat tore through the air like a beast unchained. I was thrown backward, crashing through glass, tumbling into smoke and chaos. Flames devoured the hallways. The chandeliers melted. Every portrait, our history, turned to ash. I stumbled toward the exit, coughing, eyes burning. Through the haze I saw him, Elias, standing on the balcony, firelight dancing across his face. "You should have stayed dead, brother," he shouted. The second blast hit before I could move. The floor collapsed. The world went white. Then I was falling, into darkness, into water, into silence. Cold swallowed me. The sea dragged me down, heavy and endless. For a moment I wanted to let it, but then Ivy's voice echoed in my head. It was never about the throne. It was about what's beneath it. I kicked upward, lungs screaming, until the surface broke open above me. The mansion burned behind me. My home, my legacy, my curse, collapsing into itself like a dying star. I floated in the dark water, staring at the rising flames, and whispered, "The Empire's dead. So why am I still alive?" The smell of salt and smoke never left me. Weeks after the explosion, I still woke up choking on it, the ghost of the mansion clinging to my lungs. I was hiding in an abandoned boathouse on the outskirts of Brighton, living off cold coffee and regret when I heard the footsteps. Still breathing, a woman's voice said. I turned. Miranda Vale stood in the doorway, dressed in black, holding an umbrella against the drizzle. Her smile was faint, but dangerous as ever. "You found me fast," I muttered. "You left a trail of ashes," she replied, stepping inside. "Your brother's been busy rewriting history. Blamed you for the blast. Interpol wants your head," I scoffed. "Let them have the ashes. I'm done fighting." She tilted her head. "No, you're not. You're waiting. For what?" "For me," I sighed. "Say what you came to say, Miranda." She dropped a folder on the table. "Elias signed deals with half of Europe's armed syndicates. I have proof and a plan. We expose him. You walk free. And what do you get?" "Closure," she said. "And the satisfaction of watching the Heir Empire devour itself." I stared at her. "You don't want justice. You want revenge? Same thing if it's done right. And if I refuse?" She smiled thinly. "Then you'll die running, like your father." 2 nights later, I was back where it all started. The Heir ruins. The mansion was a skeleton, half buried in ash and silence. Wind howled through the broken halls. I set the cameras myself, hidden, live streaming to every major outlet Miranda could bribe. If I was going to end this, the world would see it burn. Elias arrived on time, immaculate as always, wearing a suit that didn't belong in a graveyard. "Well," he said, spreading his arms. "The ghost returns. You tried to kill me," I said. "Twice," he smiled. "And failed twice. Maybe fate likes you. Or maybe she's saving me for tonight." He glanced around the ruins. "You think this spectacle redeems you?" "The Empire's already dead, Damien." I tapped my earpiece. "Then the dead should stop talking." Screens flickered to life across the charred walls. Video feeds, bank transfers, intercepted calls, all tying him to the Vale Syndicate and the Heir bombings. Elias froze. "What did you do?" "I told the truth," I said. "You killed father. You burned the family. Now the world sees you for what you are." He laughed, a sharp manic sound. "You think they'll believe the ghost over me?" "You're a murderer, Damien." "Maybe," I said quietly, "but I didn't start the fire." Sirens echoed in the distance, growing louder, closer. Elias's smile faltered. "You called them," he hissed. "You brought the police to our house?" "Our house burned a long time ago," I said. He drew his gun. "You always wanted my throne. Take it now, if you can." "I don't want the throne," I said, stepping closer. "I want peace." He aimed at my chest. "Then die in it." The gunshot never came. A second shot cracked through the air, and Elias staggered, blood blooming across his shoulder. Behind him, Ivy stood, barely alive, bruised, trembling, gun shaking in her hand. Her voice was a whisper. "I built this empire for kings, not monsters." Elias turned toward her, disbelief twisting into fury. "You..." Another shot. His body hit the ground. I caught Ivy as she fell, the gun slipping from her fingers. I couldn't. Let him win, she murmured. Don't talk, I said, pressing my hand to her wound. We'll get help, she smiled weakly. Help doesn't come for people like us. Ivy, I lied, Damien, she whispered. It wasn't just your father. I poisoned the deal, the books, the loyalty. I thought I was saving us, but I destroyed everything. Her breathing faltered. You did what you thought was right, I said. No, she breathed. You did, her eyes dimmed. The last of the Heir blood soaked into the floorboards. Sirens screamed outside. Floodlights cut through the smoke. I stood, staring at Elias's body, at the monster my family created, and felt nothing. Then I saw it. The Heir insignia carved into the marble floor, cracked and blackened by the blast. I poured gasoline from the broken canister nearby and struck a match. Flames crawled across the stone, devouring the crest. Our legacy, our curse. As the fire rose, I whispered, I didn't want the throne. I wanted peace. But peace always comes after chaos. The wind caught the flames, throwing sparks into the night sky. I turned away, walking down the path that led away from the ruins, my shadow long against the fire. Behind me, the Heir mansion, the empire, the lies, the ghosts, burned to nothing. For the first time in years, the world was quiet, and for the first time in my life, so was I.